The Neon Mirage, the latest in the serial Neon Shadows. Chapter 1, Desert Smoke. Las Vegas in the 1980s was a shimmering oasis of sin, caught somewhere between the old mob-run glamour and the looming corporate takeover. The air carried the scent of desert dust and cigarette smoke, and the city hummed with neon, a perpetual twilight that made it feel as though time had stopped. Jack Johnny Ace Armitage was a professional gambler with a face for poker and a past he couldn't fold. He'd been a big name on the East Coast once, a hustler and a cheat who made the wrong enemies. Vegas was supposed to be his fresh start, but like a rigged roulette wheel, fate always found a way to spin him the wrong number. Opposite Jack was Carmen DeVito, a smoky-eyed lounge singer with a voice like velvet and a knack for knowing everyone's secrets. She worked the Stardust Lounge 5 nights a week, crooning ballads to drunks while her sharp ears caught whispers of illicit deals and loose lips. Carmen wasn't just a singer, she was a hustler in her own right, moonlighting as an information broker for anyone willing to pay. They weren't partners, not at first, but Vegas had a way of throwing people together. Jack was down on his luck, staring at a pile of chips that weren't his anymore. Carmen, seated at the bar, watched him lose everything with the calm detachment of someone who'd seen it all before. "You've got the kind of face that screams trouble," she said, sidling up to him after he'd tossed back his 5th whiskey. "And you've got the kind of voice that makes men forget they're drowning," Jack shot back. "What do you want?" "I saw you lose big to Eddie the Vulture at that table." She leaned in close, her perfume cutting through the haze of smoke. "I'm betting you didn't come to Vegas just to donate to his cause." Jack's eyes narrowed. "What's it to you?" Carmen smiled, a flash of red lipstick and mischief. "Let's just say I know what it's like to need a little redemption." Chapter 2, A Proposition. Jack was about to tell her to mind her own business when she dropped the bomb. "Eddie's running a private game tomorrow night at the Desert Mirage, one of the last joints still under the table. Word is he's sitting on a stash of bearer bonds, real money." Jack froze. Bearer bonds were as good as cash and untraceable, the kind of payday that could wipe his debts clean and buy him a one-way ticket out of town. "You think I can just walk in there and take it?" he asked, skeptical. Carmen shook her head. "Not alone, but with me, maybe." "What's your angle?" Jack said, his voice a low growl. "Eddie's been squeezing a lot of people lately, including me. I help you get the bonds. You cut me in for 40%. 20, Jack countered. 30, or I walk." Her voice was firm, her dark eyes daring him to test her resolve. "Deal." Jack extended his hand and Carmen shook it. The Desert Mirage was a relic of old Vegas, a low-slung casino with flickering neon signs, and a clientele that consisted mostly of locals and hustlers. Jack and Carmen worked the room separately, each playing their parts. Carmen took to the stage in a slinky black dress, singing torch songs while her sharp eyes scanned the crowd. Eddie sat in the back corner, surrounded by his goons. He was a wiry man with a face like a weasel, and he liked to flaunt his winnings, a cigar always hanging from his lips. Jack, meanwhile, joined a low-stakes poker game to blend in, his eyes on the private room where Eddie's stash was likely kept. He didn't have to wait long. Carmen's signal came mid-song, a sultry wink toward the hallway. Carmen approached Eddie during her break, her smile dazzling. "Mind if I join you?" she purred. Eddie's grin was all teeth. "For you, sweetheart, always." While Carmen played her part, Jack slipped through the casino, using the shadows to his advantage. He'd cased the place earlier and knew the office was down a narrow hallway, guarded by a single thug who looked more muscle than brains. Jack approached him with a lit cigarette, feigning drunkenness. "Hey buddy, you got a light?" The thug grunted, annoyed. "Beat it." Jack didn't give him the chance. A quick jab to the throat and a follow-up punch sent the man crumpling to the ground. Jack dragged him into a nearby supply closet and pocketed the keys hanging from his belt. The office was small, cluttered with papers and cheap wood paneling. A safe sat in the corner, the kind Jack could crack in his sleep. He worked quickly, his heart pounding as the tumblers clicked into place. Inside were stacks of cash and the bonds. Jack stuffed them into his bag, pausing only to admire the haul. "Sorry, Eddie," he muttered. "House wins this time." Jack slipped back into the casino, his eyes scanning for Carmen. She was still with Eddie, her laughter ringing out like a bell. As he made his way to the exit, he felt a hand clamp down on his shoulder. "You're not as sneaky as you think," a voice growled. Jack turned to find one of Eddie's other goons, a mountain of a man glaring at him. Before Jack could react, the goon threw a punch, sending him sprawling. Chaos erupted. Carmen seized the distraction, throwing her drink in Eddie's face before bolting toward Jack. Together they sprinted out of the casino, Eddie's men hot on their heels. They ducked into an alley, breathing hard. Jack held up the bag, grinning. We did it. Carmen's expression darkened. Not yet. Eddie's not the type to let this slide. Back at Jack's dingy motel room, they counted the bonds. It was enough to set them both up for life. But the moment was cut short by the sound of tires screeching outside. They found us, Carmen hissed. Jack grabbed a pistol from his bag. Stay behind me. The door burst open and Eddie stormed in, flanked by his men. You really thought you could rob me? He snarled. Carmen stepped forward, her hands up. Wait, Eddie, we can cut a deal. But Eddie wasn't listening. His gun was already raised, aiming for Jack. In the chaos, Carmen lunged for Eddie, her nails raking across his face. The distraction gave Jack enough time to fire, the shot echoing in the tiny room. Eddie went down, clutching his chest. His men hesitated, then bolted. No one wanted to die for Eddie the Vulture. Carmen and Jack stood over the body, their breathing ragged. The bonds sat untouched on the bed. Chapter 7. The Goodbye. They knew they couldn't stay in Vegas. The city had too many eyes, too many mouths that would spread the story. By dawn, they were on the road. The bonds split between them. As they reached the state line, Carmen lit a cigarette, her gaze fixed on the horizon. You think we'll ever see each other again? Jack smirked. In a town like Vegas, anything's possible. With that, they parted ways, two shadows fading into the desert. Las Vegas, with all its glitter and grime, would move on without them. But their story would linger like smoke in the neon haze, a reminder that in the city of illusions, the only thing real is the hustle.